Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review a 1970s horror movie called Messiah of Evil. This seems like it's a random choice, as my cat wants to live. I swear, he literally waits until I start a video to either come in here or leave my room. But this might seem like a random choice. Like, why am I reviewing this movie from the 70s? Like, whatever. Like, I know usually last year and all the years prior, I would review, like, random movies here and there. But I haven't really been on a schedule with doing reviews. And so it just might seem odd either way. Well, I've been doing a lot of busy work tasks for my films, my two first films. I've been doing a lot of stuff that's just like, it gets tedious, it gets boring. It feels like you're just like going through the motions. And so I wanted to spice things up. And this is actually what I was doing already when I decided to make a second movie. Is that I decided I want to focus on another project that I can do either while I'm doing these or afterwards, like immediately afterwards. In fact, I used to have a problem with that, where I would just focus on one thing and then I would be like, okay, well, actually, I'm kind of sick of this now. I want to do something else. And, I would do that over and over and over again. But this is actually, this movie, the reason why I chose to watch it is because I am going to be doing a Goosebumps fan series on YouTube. I'm doing this because I think that the new Goosebumps movie and show have been horrible. I think that the Goosebumps books have kind of gone downhill. And I just think in general, like, I'm sick and tired of Goosebumps being so bad. And I really want to make my own Goosebumps. I want to do it right. I want to make it like... I want to do something that, like, defines me as the filmmaker that I am. And so the first episode... This is probably the only place where I'll reveal this for a while, is going to be Welcome to Dead House. And in particular, my angle was I want to make it a Welcome to Dead House episode that is kind of like something that George Romero would have done. Because he was actually supposed to make a Goosebumps movie where it was just going to be Welcome to Dead House. And I thought, that's a really good idea. Well, actually, it's kind of a mixed bag because I'm not going to get too much into it. I just thought it would be important to explain the context of this review. But the monsters in Welcome to Dead House are not zombies, they're ghouls. Ghouls are really different than zombies in a number of ways. And so I wonder if George Romero had made it, if it would have been like, if the monsters would have been different, or it would have felt like, oh, those are just zombies. So I was looking for like movies and TV show episodes that would help me not only like understand the vibe of George Romero better, because I've never really like watched one of his movies to study them. I was looking for something that would really inspire Welcome to Dead House, and something that would just be like perfect to see what are ghouls like. Because ghouls are not zombies. And so the number one suggestion that I got was Messiah of Evil. And this movie... I'm going to sit down now. This movie is actually, I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was fun. It felt like a breath of fresh air. It kind of reminded me of last week's Dark Winds episode. Not this one, but the last one before that one. I loved the aesthetic, the vibe that it had. I mean, the whole movie was just a vibe. There was very little story. It was like sprinkled in here and there. But the cool thing is that since this is back in the 70s, it feels like they felt like they had an obligation to tell a story. And so they did have to sprinkle stuff in here and there, and at the end they did have everything come together in an odd way, in their own way. I would also say, I think what's really funny, this is the thing that I thought through the whole movie, watching the whole movie, was that this is probably the best A24 movie I've ever seen. Wink, wink, because this is not a real A24 movie. However, this is better than anything that I've seen from A24. You know, A24 movies, I think that if you like those kinds of movies, you would love this one too. But this is better because it feels like it's not just art for the sake of art, and it feels like there's an actual purpose to the story. It feels, it's so much better in every way than all the A24 movies that I've ever seen. You know, usually with A24 movies, it's always like, okay, we have a really good idea, we have a really good concept, but then the movie's execution is way off, and it's just kind of a letdown. It's kind of like a balloon where you're blowing up a balloon, and then you just let go of it, and it just goes, and it just completely deflates and goes on the floor. That's like what A24 movies are. And this movie was the opposite for me, where I wasn't really sold on the idea. I mean, I didn't really get very much of an idea from people who actually reviewed the movie and talked about it. They just said, it's a vibe. And, you know, I was like, that doesn't sound very good. But I gave it a whirl, and I really wasn't sold on this movie in the first, 15 to 20 minutes. But then, I got it. And as soon as I got it, I just loved the entire rest of the movie. I put my phone down, which is something that, you know, if I'm not really interested in a movie, I'll, do other things while I'm watching it. I'll I play this game. Safi plays it too, but she kind of sucks at it. She has me beat levels for her and everything, but it's called Color Block Jam. I used to play this game called Cup Heroes, but now I play the Color Block Jam. But I was thoroughly invested into this movie. It also, what was really interesting about it was that even though it wasn't a slasher, it very much had a slasher vibe where you had this cast of characters and, one by one people get picked off. And I thought that was really, unique about the movie because it wasn't like a full-on slasher. It didn't have even all the elements of a regular slasher, but the way that things played out, it definitely was like an old-school kind of slasher. I would also say it really helped in terms of being a good influence for Welcome to Deadhouse, because I can see several things that I actually will take influence from. And I would say that, in general, if you're in the mood to watch, a movie about a creepy small town where somebody goes there and everything's really bad there and there's evil there, this is the perfect movie. It is a vibe, as I've just said, 5,000 times. It also has, a dreamy, quality. I would say that part of it, but it didn't really work as much on me. Still, it went for the vibe that it wanted to go for, and I've seen other people who have said this too, there's no other movie I've ever seen that's like this one. There's no other movie that has the feeling that this movie has. I would say too, this is a great like late night movie. It's kind of like After Hours. If you guys have ever seen Martin Scorsese's After Hours, like that's like the perfect like movie to watch at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. I would like to add this movie to that catalog. Although I will say this too, it's hard for me to get scared watching movies and TV shows because I've seen some shit. I've seen a lot of horror movies. I've seen a lot. And it's difficult to find things that actually work on me. It's very difficult. And if this is a measurement of how good the movie is, then, take this for what you will. This movie was actually hard for me to watch at some points. Like, it made me very uneasy. It actually did kind of scare me a little bit at some points. It really did actually freak me out. And I think that's just, I was so glad because I'm like, it's so nice to watch a horror movie and feel like how other people usually feel. Other people, they watch something like the new Scream movie, that shitty Scream 6. They watch something like that and they're like, oh my God, it's so scary. That's the scariest horror movie I've ever seen. And then I watch it and I'm like, wow, you call that scary? You call that scary? And then I just punch them in the face. No, I don't. I'm just kidding. But this is an actual freaky movie. And I want to see more movies like this. Like, I feel so inspired off of it. And I feel like I want more movies like this. Like, it was scary in the sense that the villains, there was no sort of humanity in them whatsoever. And at the same time, there was no, like, hardly any of them talked throughout the whole movie. Like, these are villains. This isn't a spoiler. You should know that this is the movie. But the villains are these ghouls that took over this town, this small town. And they are some of the scariest villains I've ever seen in a movie. And they were so good. I mean, they were so good at just standing, staring, watching it, like chasing. Chasing is one of my biggest, it's one of my biggest, like, scares that you can put in a horror movie, because it just, the feeling of, like, being chased and having someone who could be, like, close behind you trying to get at you, it's like, that's a scary thing. In this movie, it had several chase sequences, and it did them really, really well. I would also say that the way that, I don't know how to describe it, like, it felt like characters were actually in danger. Like, when I watch modern horror movies, like, I can't even remember the most recent one I watched, The Wolfman. Ugh. But The Wolfman wasn't that bad, actually. Like, I could watch that one again, even though it's not what it should have been. But you felt danger for these characters. You felt like these characters are fucked. And that's also something that you want to feel when you're watching a horror movie. There's too many horror movies, and I hate it. I hate this kind of feeling where you know who's going to live, you know who's going to die. You know that there's that one girl, she's a really boring girl, and she's just so boring and bland, and she's like Swiss cheese and shit, and she is the final girl, and she gets to survive at the end, and she gets to beat the bad guy because it's a feminist statement or something. They talked about that in Leslie Vernon, but that movie was actually good because that movie was poking fun at everything and kind of like twisting things. But I just hate it when you watch a horror movie and you feel like, hey, oh, that guy, he might be a likable guy, but sucks for him. He's the stoner guy, so he has to die. And then that female character's she's a whore, but she's kind of a dirty whore. I like it, but she has to die because she's a dirty whore. And it's like I hate that. I hate that kind of thing. And I didn't feel that with this movie. I felt like all the characters were in an equal amount of danger. Even though there was one main character that, like, she was the main character, and you do know at the beginning that she is going to survive at the end, it's with a price, and it's also like she's telling the story, because the story, I mean, it's like a paper-thin story, but somehow it works so well. Like, I would say this movie is like a Eraserhead meets Night of the Living Dead. So if you think that sounds good, you're going to love this movie. There's so many things that I loved about it. Let's talk about something that I didn't love for a second, just because I don't want to seem like that I'm just glazing the movie and that I'm just, saying like, oh yeah, this is a great movie so that I can get a like or a comment or something, because I know a lot of people on YouTube, past, present, and future, they're very disingenuous with their reviews. And, if they like a movie, or if they have to pretend that they like a movie, they won't say anything bad about it at all. And then over time, they'll be like, oh, well, actually, I didn't like that. And actually, oh, yeah, it was bad. I didn't realize it yet. And, that's kind of like what happens. But I will say, I did not like the beginning part, kind of. I was kind of having a hard time getting into the movie, because you have to get adjusted into this movie. Like, it really is like you have to leave America, and you have to enter the Twilight Zone with the girl in this movie. You have to enter the Twilight Zone where you will see an albino guy, and he is a weird guy who kills people and shit like that. You have to get ready for stuff like that, or else you're going to have a hard time with this movie. The other issue that I had was just the characters. Some of the characters I just kind of felt like they're better than some of the characters that I've seen nowadays. Like, they felt like real people. A lot of the characters nowadays, especially in horror movies, they feel like stereotypes, and they're so bland and boring. But these characters, they did feel real. And at the same time, I wish I could have known more about them, because, like, it centers around, you have this girl, she's looking for her dad. Her dad is a famous artist. He went to this small town and he disappeared. And then also she finds these people, this little group of people. You have a guy who's he's like a player, I guess. That's his character. Like, he's a collector. He collects the dad's art, and he's a player. And he's like a classic 70s, like, get in the bed with me, even though there's already someone in bed with me type of person. And then he had two other girlfriends. One of them was kind of hot, and she was also, like, very studious and serious and kind of like a soulful, I don't know, that was a weird word to describe. She's a soulful character. Then the other one's like an annoying, like, chipmunk woman, and she's just very annoying. But like, those characters I just wanted to know more about, because they really didn't have very much to them. And they stay with this main girl throughout the movie, and then one by one, they get killed off. And, this is a spoiler review, by the way, just so you know. Because, I mean, it's a pretty old movie. It's from the 70s. And, but those two things were my biggest flaws with the movie. And also kind of the ending, I guess. The ending was kind of a cop-out. It was kind of like it was just a moody kind of twist ending that you kind of expect, and it just, there wasn't anything special about the ending, I thought. But in general, I loved everything else about the movie. Those were my big issues with it. Now let's talk more about what I loved about the movie, because I actually did like the movie a lot. My favorite scene is a scene that actually somebody else said was their favorite scene, and that is the grocery store scene. There's this part where the soulful girl, she leaves the player, and she's just going to go off and go to somewhere else. And she's like, first off, she gets in a truck with the albino guy. Now, this albino guy, I thought he was supposed to be like the main villain of the movie. He has like he at the beginning of the movie, he had all these dead bodies in his truck, and I think he was telling this guy at the gas station to dispose of them or something. And then later on, he has zombies or ghouls riding in the back of his truck, and he picks up this woman, and he says, "There were beach rats outside. There usually aren't any beach rats." And it's like you finally got to hear his voice. Like, I didn't even think I would get to hear that guy's voice, but then she's like, "Ugh." And he's like, "I'm sorry I freaked you out." And she's like, "No, it's just, what do you do with those? Are they your pets?" And he's like, "Oh, I like to eat them." And then he just shoves it in his mouth, and he's got blood coming out, and it's just so funny because he's not a human, he's not a human being, and so he's not even doing this to freak out this girl, to scare her or anything. It's like a genuine, like, I'm just telling you what I like to do, and this is what I do, and it's like, this is my thing. And well, after that, she escapes this truck, and she goes into this store, and there's already like people in the background watching her, ghouls watching her. And then she goes back to the meat department area, and there's all these ghouls there, and they're just chowing down on raw meat. And then they see her, and they chase her down, and you can guess what happens. That was scary. That was something that, oh God, that was really freaky. And yeah, I love that part in the movie. There's another sequence that's very similar that takes place in a movie theater. I thought that was really good, although I didn't really feel very sorry for the chipmunk girl because she was very annoying, and she wasn't very interesting as a character. And, but yeah, I'm trying to think of, there was a part at the end. Now, this was interesting too, because you were kind of thinking the whole movie, at least I was thinking of, like, how is this one person gonna get out of this town alive? How is she going to deal with these ghouls? Like, these ghouls are not dumb like zombies. They are intelligent, and they are pure predators, and they're fast as hell. They're not slow like George Romero's zombies. So how is she going to get out of this? How is she going to defeat these monsters? Well, she does actually end up meeting with her father near the end, and he has been infected, and he is turning into a ghoul, I guess. And she actually does do a one-on-one battle with him, and she sets him on fire. And that's basically what they would have had to do with the whole town, is set the ghouls on fire, because that is the only way you can destroy these things. But she doesn't get to do that. But there was that feeling there, that kind of relief feeling of like, oh wow, she's going to get to pull this off. She's going to get to escape. She's going to defeat these people, these things somehow. And I was also surprised too, because this is what I was talking about with not knowing whether or not characters would die. The player guy, he actually survives until the end, and he protects the main chick, and they end up having this extended chase sequence. This was the part of the movie where I really felt let down, because I just kind of felt like, again, like it was a cop-out, and like it felt like, I don't know, like it didn't really match the caliber of the rest of the movie. It felt like we ran out of money, we can't do this, let's end it in a smart way where we're kind of hiding that we wanted to do something else and we didn't get to do that. So what happens is that, excuse me, sorry, her and her, I guess you could say, boyfriend, they get surrounded on the beach because the ghouls, they like to go to the beach and just stare at the ocean. And they chase these guys into the water. And then all of a sudden, the boyfriend disappears, and the main girl, she is just in the middle of the water, and it's just like, okay, and then it looks like she drowns, and then they cut, and it's like, well, oh, that didn't happen, obviously. But this is the part where the movie really failed for me, because it felt, too, like they painted themselves into a corner. With like, oh, how does she get out of this? Well, I don't know. A miracle? Like, I mean, there really is nothing like... And so what happens, though, is that these ghouls, she does a narration where she explains what happens while she's in the mental asylum. And she explains that the ghouls took her out, and they dressed her up, and they were going to sacrifice her to their demon god, which is this guy with the black hat. He's like an evil version of the man with the yellow hat, except he wears all black, from Curious George. And instead of getting sacrificed, the guy with the black hat, he told her that she can go or something, and that nobody will believe her story. But so, there's a lot of assumptions that you have to make about this whole story, because they really don't show it in full. They show some of it, but most of it is narration. But, like, I don't understand, like, there's also a part in the movie where the ghouls run into a police officer who, you know, he actually catches them, and he knows that all these ghouls are there, and he starts shooting at them. And also one of the other police officers is a ghoul too. That's like a little twist there. But how is it that this town, that like this is just going on without anyone outside noticing? It's very much like symbolic over being logical over reasoning. It's very much like, okay, like there's some kind of a message here, but, you know... Because, like, it's really strange. Like, so how does the final girl, how does she get out of that situation at the beach? Like, does she just run away? Did the monsters take her to the police or something? Like, it's really not explained, or it's not explained well. I didn't catch it. And I don't know. I feel like it really kind of let itself down at the end, because it was such an implausible story, you know. I mean, it's very much like Twilight Zone-y in a way, but it's not Twilight Zone-y in a way where you could believe it. It's very much like, okay, like these ghouls just took over this town after... And they had like the origin story of how the first ghoul ever came to this town, and it was like back in the 1800s or something like that, like a long time ago. And I don't know, it just seems like, even though it's a small town, how is all this stuff taking place without anyone noticing, without any sort of repercussion? It kind of reminds me of the American Horror Story double feature, the first half, Red Tide. It kind of reminds me of that vampire story because the same kind of thing happened in that, where they had this town with these vampires and, people were just getting killed left and right and left and right. And it was almost like, oh, who cares? Like, just people get killed and they go missing all the time. Like, that's totally, totally normal. It wouldn't become like a nationwide issue or something, but like, yeah. So that was my big downfall of the movie. But other than that, I really loved the movie. I thought that it very much felt like a George Romero movie. I mean, it had the George Romero feeling, which I was kind of surprised because I didn't expect it to really, really be like a George Romero movie. I just expected it to be like a typical 70s horror movie, something. But like, so this was a pleasant surprise for me. I think that it was a lot of fun watching this for the first time. And I'd actually like to watch it again. So in terms of food, I thought of a very weird food review that would go perfect for this movie. And that would be a glass of ice cold milk. This is something that nobody ever really drinks milk all by itself. Like, I haven't seen it a lot, especially in movies and TV shows. I never see it. Usually you drink milk with dinner, you drink it with cookies. You never really see people just having a glass of milk. But it's something that actually people do, and I've done it before. And it's a very odd experience because it's like you get this craving, like the ghouls get, where it's like you just can't explain it. Like, you have the craving and you have to have the milk. And so you end up drinking a glass of milk, and it's like there's nothing else that you want. You don't want any, like any chips, any fruit, any candy. You don't want anything to go with it. You just want to have a glass of milk. That's what this movie's like. It's like a giant ice cold glass of milk. So, I would highly recommend this movie. It is well worth your time. And yeah, there's also something else that I wanted to talk about because it just happened before I watched the movie, coincidentally. And I thought it was very interesting that it happened before I saw the movie. And it was really funny and kind of bizarre. So Safi and I were doing a DoorDash order for this one pizza place. The first thing that we do is there's nowhere to park. And so Safi had to let me out, and she was just kind of driving around the parking lot, kind of just like stalling. And I went in there, and they were actually so busy that they were having like their weekly buffet. They have a buffet at this pizza place where you can basically get as much pizza as you want for like $12 a person or something. It's a really good deal. And so the person at the counter, she said that it would be 15 minutes. So I go outside, and Safi and I, we rode to the back of the pizza place, and we sat out back by the dumpster. And I know that it's not an official parking spot that we sat at, but the parking lot was so crowded, and we weren't going to be there for long. We weren't like parking there so we could go in there and eat or something. And so we didn't think that it would be a problem. And I don't think that it was a problem. I don't know what happened, but what happened was there was this guy who was like 7 feet tall. And this was close to when we were done waiting, by the way. And he had like a t-shirt and shorts. It was like a gray t-shirt with red and white and blue on the shirt. and he had a military, like, buzz cut, kind of. He had glasses, and he had his phone out. And he came to back behind the dumpster, and I don't really know what he was doing. He was, like, on his phone, but it didn't really look like he was taking pictures or anything of our car. But, like, it was just so weird. It was like, what is this guy doing? But he did it right as we were backing up and actually going back to the front of the store. So, like, I don't know if he was, like, some concerned citizen who, like, is just, like, obsessive compulsive disorder or something. So he's like, oh, I gotta go out there and take pictures of this car that's not sitting in a official parking space or something. Like, I don't know what the guy was doing. But as we backed up, he started moving to the back of the dumpster. Back to the side of the dumpster where we couldn't see him. And then as we were driving past the dumpster, he started walking past the dumpster and back towards the direction of that we were going. But he was trying to act like he wasn't, like, there to see us or anything. But then there was this other car with this big fat woman, and she had her window rolled down. And she said something like, get out of here, you weirdo, or something. And she was talking to the guy or something. Like, it was really weird. It was straight up out of this movie. And if that's not weird enough, we go to the front of the store, and the military buzz cut guy, he goes to his car. His car was like, it was a dark blue car, and it was really low to the ground. And there was another guy in the car, and what was weird was his door was wide open. The guy's car door. It was wide open. And the guy in the other guy in the car, I couldn't see his face. I couldn't see him. But he was, like, rambling and raving and making all these weird, like, saying all this weird shit. And, you know, he was very bizarre, like a cartoon character, like Beavis and Butthead. And so then the military buzz cut guy, he got into the car, and I don't know what they were doing. I have no idea what they were fucking doing. But then after that, we parked into a regular space, and then they sped away and sped out of the lot and drove off. So I don't know what the fuck that was about. But after watching this movie, it very much reminded me of that whole encounter. I don't know what it was. I don't know what the guy was doing because, you know, so that was really weird. And, yeah. It wasn't scary or anything either. Like the guy, like, it was kind of like, I didn't even realize, like, oh, what is that guy doing? Like, I didn't even realize, like, what he could actually be doing. But, I just figured, we weren't in a parking space and we were just sitting in the back so someone could think we're sinister characters or something. I don't know. But I ended up getting my pizza orders and there wasn't any issue after that, so I have no idea. And then if that wasn't weird enough too, I went inside the pizza place and there was a girl in there working there, and she looked exactly like someone else that I know. And so that was another strange, like, coincidence that followed that whole encounter. So anyways, I hope you guys didn't mind me sharing that whole little story. I know that it didn't have anything to do with the movie, technically, but I felt like, you know what? It is a story worth telling. And so please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of Messiah of Evil. I would definitely watch it again. I think that it is an underrated movie because I had never heard of it before. So it's cool. You get to... That's the fun thing about movies, too, is that no matter how many movies you think you've seen, you haven't seen all the movies. And so you can constantly find something new that is something that you might like and something that fits within what you're looking for. And that's what's great about movies. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.